Girls, before we get started on today's episode of The Charge, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Again, all that stuff leads to great algorithms that the YouTubes love. They want to get us more algorithm touches. And so if you guys can help us get that by, commenting, liking, subscribing. Again, we are at that 1,000 mark, and I do appreciate you guys for helping us get there. Continue to help us get there to the next 2,000, right? We're trying to continue to grow this channel. Again, this is going to be a community. I want this to be a community. I don't want this to be a gang or whatever the YouTube phrase that they use, right? I try to think like leader, posse, whatever words. Like, no, this is a community. I want this, like I said, I want this to be for everybody together. We're all on equal playing field, so that's why we're going to be calling it a community instead of the typical YouTube jargon. So, anyway, besides the point, LeBron James, the Lakers have productive discussion about future, but no deal has been made just yet. So, in this article, it goes on to say that LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers have had a productive meeting about their future on Thursday, Rich Paul told Dave McMenamin on ESPN. McMenamin adds that the two sides have yet to agree upon a new contract, with Paul saying that discussions will continue moving forward. Thursday marked the first day that James was eligible for the 2-year, $97.1 million contract extension with the Lakers. LeBron James obviously has until June 30th to sign an extension before becoming an unrestricted free agent. I believe that is next year, not this year. James could also sign a 1-year extension worth $47 million with a player option. This is the million-dollar question that I think a lot of us are wondering about LeBron James and really wondering about the Lakers, because we had Jeannie Buss in the past say before that she is not willing to give up those draft picks to get a guy in Kyrie Irving. We know whatever the next story is about Kyrie Irving and the Nets, we know officially that the Lakers are in this weird predicament where, yes, they have LeBron James, they have one of the best players in the NBA of all time in their roster, and they are deciding whether or not they're going to keep him. I think, to me, you can clearly see that Lakers fans on Twitter, wherever else you kind of consume your media from, you can clearly see that they are upset with the way that things have gone for LA and the way that things have gone for the Lakers, because they're so used to a different style, right? This is like LeBron James, who's more of a guy who's going to take care of himself first and then the team. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to hate on anybody for doing that. And so I think Lakers fans are upset about that. Lakers fans are obviously not in a good headspace right now because they want everything to be, fine and dandy. But at the same time, you look at the way that LeBron James and the Lakers have kind of continued their relationship. It seems like they continue to kind of have this tension that's there. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily on purpose or if it's because the Lakers are deciding what they want to do. Because we know the Lakers throughout their history have not been a team that has built through the draft. Maybe back in the 80s with Magic Johnson, but since the 90s and therefore on out until right now in 2022, they have been trading for free agents for the longest time. They've been trading for guys. They built their players through free agency market. This, to me, is where the Lakers need to kind of build on that and, try to get some guys back. I understand you have Westbrook on your roster. You need to find a way to get the guy off the roster. If you do not think that he's the right guy for your team, you have to get rid of him. And I think you have to get rid of him before the season. And again, this isn't me hating on Westbrook. It's just about fit and what LeBron James and Anthony Davis need regularly. I think for me, my concern from Anthony Davis' perspective, I'm kind of jumbling all over the place, but I'm really concerned about the injury history with Anthony Davis, and I think all of us are, right? Because, that's kind of been his biggest knock as a player, is that he has the tremendous talent to be better than Joel Embiid, better than everybody else, better than Giannis, right? A lot of people are saying like that, the way that Giannis plays is who Anthony Davis should have been. And I think Anthony Davis can get there. It's just all about the injury history. We talk about that year that they won the bubble championship. That was probably the best Anthony Davis I think we've ever seen. And I don't really care about saying, oh, well, he had 2 months off before the playoffs. I don't care. You can clearly see that he was one of the best players in that NBA playoffs, and you need Anthony Davis to be like that because LeBron James wants to kind of take a little bit of a back seat to kind of be more of the facilitator, the guy that, gets the one-on-one opportunities, because before in his career, he's always been getting double teamed. They would try to come at him. They would try to blitz him. and LeBron James have to give up the ball quickly. But if you can have Anthony Davis play the way that he does before, that would be a huge benefit to the Lakers. And that's the reason why, to me, LeBron James is hesitant to sign a contract extension with the Lakers. Not only because he doesn't trust the front office, it's also because does he trust the players out there? Does he trust Anthony Davis to stay healthy for a full season? Does he trust Westbrook to make the right decision on the court? That to me is the biggest question mark going into hang on one second, I just want to make sure that got everybody here. And that's the biggest question mark as to why LeBron James will not sign a contract extension with a player option or even just a 2-year deal like Chris Paul did a year ago. Because, again, it comes back to the situation that LeBron James, how can he trust the LA Lakers to make the right decisions? Again, I think Rob Pelinka lucked into getting Anthony Davis. I don't think that Rob Pelinka is necessarily this genius GM that a lot of people claimed he was 2 years ago. I kind of said this the year where they were kind of... what year was it? It was the year where he played with the kids. Like, he played with Brandon Ingram. I believe he played with Lonzo Ball. Like, all those guys. You know, Rob Pelinka was in charge of that along with Magic Johnson, and there was always tension between those two people. And to me, when I see that tension, when I see everything that's been going on for the LA Lakers, in my perspective and in my opinion, I think that Rob Pelinka has to go. He has to be the guy to go. He has to be the fall guy because he has definitely not done the job as a GM to get the players that they need. My frustration, hang on one second. My frustration with the LA Lakers is because, you know, you're wasting away years of LeBron James. I understand you want to keep him on the team because he could potentially break Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record, and what better way to have a Laker overcome another Laker. But if I'm LeBron James and I think winning is my number one thing, I'm not afraid to move. And if I'm him, I'm moving. Because I don't think that Laker fans are very appreciative of what LeBron James has brought to the city so far in his short stint as a Laker. And you could claim like, oh, well, the only thing he's brought us was a bubble championship and, you know, really first round exits and even no playoffs. But you have to think about it this way. LeBron James has brought you a championship. I think he needs, when the chip just needs pieces around him. Yeah, and exactly. He needs good pieces around him. And I'm just not so sure that's going to be in Lakers. Like I said, I think Cleveland could be a really good option. I think if we look at other teams here really quick that I have up here, Cleveland to me is the number one because I think they just have the roster. And LeBron James doesn't have to be the guy. You have Darius Garland, who's a really good point guard. You have Evan Mobley, who's a long athletic wing. If LeBron James wants to be there, I think that would be more thing. Lakers fans can more concerned with comparing Bron to Kobe than appreciating an all-time great in purple and gold. Exactly. Because I think, which is funny because if you think about the Lakers' history, they've always been the team that has like built through the free agency, like I talked about a little bit earlier. But they always had that one player that has played with them throughout their whole life, right? You know, Lakers fans about my age remember the Kobe Bryant that was playing in the league. You know, from number 8 to number 24, doing all these kind of crazy stuff. But now that, you know, that era of LA basketball is over, there's a new era where they had the young kids. They got visibly frustrated because, like, you know, they would say, oh, you know, Kobe Bryant would never stand for this. And then they said, okay, we're going to get LeBron James in here. You know, or what was I saying before I read? Sorry, Sean. I read your comments, so I was like, But you know, I do think that when I look at everything, I think what it is that LeBron James kind of looks at that organization, looks at that team, and I'll read your comment, Sean, because your comment kind of stuck out with me because I think I was talking about Kobe Bryant. And oh yeah, because they had the kids, and then they kind of said, okay, well, let's bring in LeBron James. We'll try to get Anthony Davis a little bit later. But let's try to see if LeBron can play with the kids. And then, of course, the fans got frustrated. I just think Lakers fans are the most impatient fan base of all time because they think that everything revolves around them, and they think that the league needs the Lakers to be good. And again, the Lakers are, you know, they're a historic franchise, you know, even though they took a lot of championships from the Minneapolis Lakers from Minnesota. So I think those championships should go back to Minnesota. But nevertheless, you know, that it's part of the franchise, it's part of the history of the organization. And so they expect to win each and every year. They expect to be competitive. And I think that realistically, you cannot be competitive all the time, right? I mean, it's really rare, especially in a hard calorie saps in a salary cap sports league, to be consistently like number one. And I know the Lakers had those off years with, excuse me, with Jordan Clarkson, all those guys, but I think there just needs to be some realism with Laker fans. I don't feel like they're realistic at times with the way their team is. They think they're going to win the championship every year. They think that they're going to be a playoff team every year, but that's just not the case in the years where they sucked. And even now, where they're kind of in this weird limbo, like, will LeBron James stay? Will he go? And so to me, that's kind of where I feel like the Lakers are at currently, is trying to figure out what their identity is if they do sign LeBron James, and what their identity will be without LeBron James. Again, to me, this comes all the way back to Jeanie Buss trying to figure out what she needs to do as the owner to kind of not have a lot of yes people around her. Again, I've kind of criticized her ad nauseum because I think that she does need to do a better job of not being so indecisive with her decisions, leaving decisions to other people. She's the owner. She needs to be, hard, strict, and really straightforward. I feel like there's too many times where she's very passive aggressive. She leaves these like passive tweets. Just come out and say what you want to say. Don't be scared as the owner to say how you really feel. If you feel like the Lakers are not living up to their potential, you tell those Laker players, you tell the Laker coaching staff, you tell everybody in that organization, I am not happy with the standard that we're at right now. And if we don't raise that standard to the way that my dad or Dr. Buss did it, that we need to get back to those levels. I just don't feel like Jeanie Buss has that in her to kind of be aggressive or to be upfront about it. And I just feel like that's kind of what's causing the Lakers right now to kind of be, like I said, in the state of limbo of, okay, maybe I am, maybe I want to be good, maybe I don't want to be good. All I know is that this team sucks and I want to quote tweet about it. Sean, let's see here. I don't necessarily agree with the premise that LeBron James can't be the guy or doesn't want to be the guy. He's still elite. I don't think it's necessarily like I don't think he wants to be the guy, but he definitely doesn't want. You can clearly see it in the way that he plays that he doesn't want to be the number one option on the team. Like that, there's a reason why he brought in Anthony Davis to kind of be the guy to carry the offensive load and also defensive load. Because we know LeBron James, again, not necessarily the best defender. He can play really great defense, but there's times where I feel like LeBron James has kind of lacked that, that tenacity, and that's just because he has to spend so much energy and kind of focus on the offensive end because Anthony Davis is always hurt. Russell Westbrook's doing his own thing, not really being with the team. But I do agree with you, Sean, in that Westbrook did basically ruin any chance they had, and Anthony Davis can't stay healthy. And so when you have a team of just LeBron James and then you have the misfit toys, I mean, let's look at this Lakers team. I mean, let me see if I can. Let's see if I can just go Lakers. Oops, Lakers. And just go to their roster really quick. Let's see here. Lakers roster. And my chair is just falling down. Let me spell that right. Jesus. Okay. So here's kind of the roster they have right now. It's like you have Thomas Bryant, LeBron James, Jay Huff, who cares? Wen Gabriel, Damian Jones, Troy Brown Jr., not a bad pickup. Mason Jones, Stanley Johnson. You have Russell Westbrook, Taylor Horton Tucker, Austin Reeves. Toscano Anderson, kind of, getting to the age of 30. Lonnie Walker, young guard, 6'4". Kendrick Nunn, who we have news of that he hasn't progressed to 5-on-5 yet, which is kind of disappointing and sad. And you have Kendrick Nunn. Like I said, you have Anthony Davis, Sharif O'Neal, I believe. He's signed with the Ignite, so he's not on the team anymore. Scottie Pippen Jr., Max. I mean, you look at these rosters. You look at this roster. You take away Anthony Davis, a healthy Anthony Davis. You take away Westbrook, or even keep Westbrook on the team. This team is not winning a championship. They are a couple of pieces away from winning it. And again, Sean, you said LeBron averaged 25 points when they won the bubble, and Anthony averaged 21 points a game. LeBron still carries on offense, IMO. And again, I know what you're saying. Like offensively, he's going to carry the load, but I think if we look back to that year, maybe I'm exposing myself. Let's go to Basketball Reference and maybe. And maybe we can just look at kind of the year that they played. Let me see if we can go to the Lakers. What was that? Lakers. And let's go to the... Which year was the bubble year? That was the 19 or 19? I think this was 1920. Yeah, 1920. And we can kind of look at the stats on the team, and we can kind of see, let's do totals here. And you are right, Sean, in a sense, right? We look at the totals here from the field goals attempted. Like LeBron, and let's look at the playoffs more so than anything else, right? Anthony Davis was kind of an equal to LeBron James. So I will give you that, Sean. But you kind of see here, and you can kind of like look at the situation at hand for the LA Lakers. They do need another guy that can get that many shot attempts in the game. Like, Anthony Davis was at 359 that year, like a field goal attempts. LeBron James was at 382. Because, again, like you said, LeBron James is always going to be the guy that they go to in the final time. Like, anytime it's a close game or anything like that. Like, we know that LeBron James is going to be that guy. But you can clearly see that Anthony Davis was a huge factor as to why they won the series a little bit. You know, I do think that, you know, his 30 blocks, his 26 steals, 582 points. I mean, he scored the most points in the playoffs that season. Like, Anthony Davis is a huge reason. Yeah, and you are right. Now I'm chiding him. You are right, Sean, on that. I'll give you that one. Touche. But you can clearly see that they need someone like that. I mean, let's go to even last year's season. What are we at? 20. Let's kind of look at the totals here. You know, we look at the offensive point total. You know, Russell Westbrook, you know, chucked up, 1,200 shots that year. Not really efficient with it, right? 29% from the three-point land, 66% from the free throw. I mean, these, like, LeBron, you can match, but think about how many shots it took Russell Westbrook to shoot and how many makes. To me, I feel like the Lakers were missing that, and you can clearly see that in the playoffs. Well, not in the playoffs, sorry, the regular season, that Russell Westbrook just was not it for the Lakers. And of course, LeBron James got hurt too. I mean, think about that as well. LeBron James only played 56 games last season. Didn't play the 78 games that Russell Westbrook did, or even 76 like Malik Monk did. And so you can clearly see that there was a huge factor. And then you look at Anthony Davis. I mean, look at where Anthony Davis was at the season. Only 40 games. Like, how are the Lakers ever supposed to win a championship or even get close to it if your best player, excuse me, if your second best player, or, 1A, 1B, whatever you want to say about Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but how is that going to be the case when your guy is only playing 40 freaking games? I'm sorry. As a coach, as someone that loves the NBA, you are not winning basketball games when you're one of your best players who's in their prime right now at 28 years old is only playing 40 games. They need to figure out a way for Anthony Davis to stay healthy. I don't know what it is. I don't know how these injuries continue to happen to a guy like Anthony Davis, but they need to figure that out right away if they want to win a championship, if they want to be competitive, if they want to get the banner to beat the Boston Celtics in most championships in the NBA, and of course LeBron James getting the scoring title in an easier fashion than he would if he was just playing by himself with Russell Westbrook. And again, you look at the turnovers too. I mean, this is total turnovers. Russell Westbrook almost had 300 turnovers this season. Everyone else, 196 for LeBron James, which is fine, but you cannot have almost 300 turnovers in the season. And I think this is just LeBron James trying to force a lot of things as well, because look at the players that he's playing with. He had a really old team. I mean, let's look at the age of this team right now. A lot of guys that probably should not be on their roster just due to their age, like DeAndre Jordan, definitely should not be. Isaiah Thomas played a couple games, but was off there. Avery Bradley played 62 games, that's fine. But then you go to these younger guys, and they didn't really give you too much. I mean, Malik Monk, Malik Monk is an okay basketball, but not for NBA standards, right? Not he's an awesome basketball player, in real life, against the average Joe. But if we're talking NBA basketball, Malik Monk did his thing, and that's not a good sign if you're the Lakers, because again, Malik Monk can be your X factor. He just can't be like your third or even fourth guy on the team. He has to be the guy that comes off the bench that gives you that scoring load So that way it takes LeBron James or Anthony Davis when they sit out. You're not really missing that offensive firepower with Malik Monk. And, it took a long time into the season, to get him going. And, he played 76 games and only started 37. So it was kind of a late bloomer situation when it came to, I got my mind, Malik Monk when he's doing his thing. And so, I mean, again, I think that the Lakers right now are in a state of limbo until we can clearly see, and to me personally, clearly see that this Lakers team for next season, we look at their roster right now, that these guys are capable of doing what they need to do for LeBron James and for the Lakers organization, right? LeBron James is, entering year 19, I think year 20. Anthony Davis, getting closer to that, age 30. And so when that happens, and when you look at that situation when it comes to Anthony Davis, the Lakers need to figure out what they're going to do for that whole thing. Because again, for the Lakers to be successful, for the Lakers to be competitive, to me, it rests on the hands of Anthony Davis. If he can't stay healthy, you can just forget anything for the Lakers' chances of winning a championship. I think that they need to look at themselves in the mirror, figure out what they need to do. Because again, I would love for them to be competitive, but I'm worried that if Anthony Davis goes down hurt once again, this whole season goes down the drain. And I don't think that LeBron James, looking at his options for next year and the year after that, I don't think he necessarily wants to play with this team if Anthony Davis continues to get hurt and if Russell Westbrook's still on the roster. Because I just don't think that their styles mesh well together. They could be great friends off the court, but their play styles just do not mesh on the court. And so I think I'll stop talking about the Lakers here. Let me know in the comment section down below if you're a Lakers fan or if you are the GM of the Lakers. Are you signing LeBron James to a contract extension? Or even if you're LeBron James, do you sign a contract extension with the LA Lakers knowing your roster, what it is currently right now? And do you sign it knowing that the health status of Anthony Davis can always be up in the air? I'd love to know your opinions in the comment section down below. Let us know what you would do if you're the Lakers and what you would do if you're LeBron James. Do you re-sign or do you say sayonara and go to a different team? Like I said, let us know in the comment section down below. Remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button.